Good evening, parents and students. Welcome to our first meeting of the 2020-2021 Band Boosters and an introduction to Mr. Noe and Mr. Hunt. We'll give it just another couple of seconds to let anybody else that's joining get online, and then we will get stuff kicked off with a quick booster update, and then we will get into some introductions and talking about what the upcoming seasons look like for the band. First off, welcome everyone. I hope everyone can hear us okay and see the screen when we are presenting. We want to get kicked off with the booster update, and that I want to start with thanking the outgoing board members, Melanie Wilson, the president, Kendall Mincy, the vice president and volunteer coordinator, Kelly Williams, the secretary, Lori Stafford, the treasurer. Those four people have put in tireless efforts over the last school year, including this summer, getting things up and running with Mr. Noe over a few voice conversations and emails and everything else. Just thank you to them for everything they have done in a successful band year last year, and moving forward, hopefully we can continue and fill in their footsteps. With that, I want to turn it over to Lori real quick to go over where we stand from a financial perspective with the booster account.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I hope you're having a good summer and staying safe. Our band year ended officially for the booster account on June 20th, and we ended at that point with a balance of $7,777. Now, this was before we got the final refund. For those of you who are involved in the New York City trip, we've had a series of 3 refund rounds, with the last checks, which were the Broadway show refunds, that went out in the mail yesterday. So if anyone has any issues, please feel free to contact me and we will work through. Everyone should be getting them any day if they have not gotten their final checks. The end of the year money is about where we were and how we start most of our years in the last 2 or 3 years, where I've seen the numbers. And in case you had not heard, our big fundraiser, Dewey's, we made over $17,500, and it's a good thing because we didn't get any chance to fundraise really after for the rest of the year. So I think financially we're poised to start off well, and if you have any questions, again, the books are open, and they'll be passed along to our next treasurer, so just let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Mm-hmm. Next up, next agenda item for the board is the elections for the board members for the 2020-2021 school year. So I'm going to share my screen and show you what the ballot is going to look like. So it is a Google Doc that will have, it has all the nominations filled in that we received back in the spring for this year, for president, vice president of volunteer coordinator, treasurer, and secretary. This is the last year that Lori can be the treasurer. She's been for 2 years, and our bylaws do state that you can only do a certain position for 2 years. So we will need a new treasurer to take over that role. So you can see everyone that's been nominated. There is a write-in option for each category. If you would like to write in another parent, please feel free to do so. We are asking for these to be completed this week. By Friday at midnight, we will tally the votes and everything Saturday, and Mr. Noe will be in touch with everyone who was voted and elected into those positions, and we will schedule the first board meeting for the upcoming year at that point. So if everyone could please get their ballots submitted again by Friday night this week, that would be fantastic and very helpful. That will be, the link to the ballot will be posted on Facebook and the band website, and so those will be visible to everyone, and we will also try to get an email out with the link to that as well. If you do not get an email, please email the OHS Band Booster email address, and we will get you a ballot over as soon as possible if you do not have Facebook or access or do not find it on the website. Last item that I wanted to talk about real quick was fundraising for this year. Obviously, big one is Dewey's. At this time, they are still planning to have stores. I talked to them yesterday. They are still planning on having stores if we're able to, based on our local health department, based on school board decisions. If we're able to fundraise and have a store, then we could participate in that. They are exploring options for online purchases and an online store and how that would look for the coming school year. And then that will give the opportunity to possibly increase our profit percentage based on online purchases versus what we got last year. And so we're exploring what those options look like. Next up would be our fruit sale. We've typically done that in the fall, a pre-Thanksgiving and an after Thanksgiving delivery. Talked to them last week. They are doing some different options, more online sales, so we can create a storefront if we want to participate in that. And they are also offering home shipping, so it's not something that we have to get a group of people to the school to unload a trailer, and so we can social distance in that aspect as well. The last two fundraisers that have been fall fundraisers in recent years, cookie dough sales, they are reviewing online options for a storefront for that. That's through the same company that does the fruit sale, so we're waiting for some information from them. The last one is Go Play Save, the coupon books. They are doing those. I know Apex has just started their sale, or is starting their sale, I think on August 1st. They're doing an online and a mobile app option. It's $30 a book. We make $15 profit per book. So a little bit of increase there, but that's another avenue for raising some funds that the new board can review and decide what the best way of doing that is. The last thing that I wanted to do was turn it over to any of the nominees that have been nominated on the Band Booster for the Band Booster board. If they would like to say anything, introduce themselves or anything like that, I will turn it over to any of them that are online and give them a couple minutes to speak. So I think the first one that I see is Michelle Dodson, if she wants to go ahead and get started.
Hi, everybody. Sorry, we are computering right now. Michelle Dodson, my son is Zach Dodson. He is going to be a sophomore and he plays clarinet. So we have been with the marching band for 1 year so far, and just a phenomenal experience. And I'm very flattered that I was nominated for secretary. So if elected, I will do my best. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Looks like Chrissy is on. Okay. If there are any other nominees that were on, or anyone that would like to speak on anything else, I'll go ahead and allow you a couple of seconds to do that as well, if anyone else has anything to say. All right. With that, we have Mr. Hunt on tonight. This is our first opportunity to really see him and get to know him for most everyone, I'm sure, as the new principal for OHS. So excited to have him join us for tonight's meeting, and just introduce him and allow him to introduce himself to the students and the families that are on, and then he will turn it over to Mr. Noe after that. Mr. Hunt, it's all yours.
All right, Mr. Markle, thank you very much for inviting me to the meeting. My second, even though I've been here since April, second official meeting with parents, which is I'm thrilled to be here. Thrilled to meet people virtually. Want to thank the band students and their families in particular. Right from the beginning, got a lot of great questions and saw immediately an enthusiasm and passion for the program that was really special. You can't help but to walk into the building at Orange High and feel the presence of the band program, to know that there's an incredible tradition. I think I may have the numbers wrong, but over a half century, there's been 3 directors. So Mr. Noe, you have about 17 more years to go, it seems. And I think that speaks to the quality of the student and the quality of the program, and the quality of the community. And so I'm thrilled to bring in, I know that there's been an incredible tradition established, and Mr. Carter did an unbelievable job. And it's really, really hard to replace people that have had such an impact on a community, but incredibly thrilled to be able to bring Mr. Noe on with his vast amount of experience, to be able to continue the momentum that we have in the program. Mr. Noe and Mr. Markle asked me if I could just say a few words about my history, and I'm happy to do that. And I encourage you, students and families, I know that this is a really unique time, and there are a ton of questions. In light of last night's board meeting, there are probably more questions, and I share a lot of the questions that you have, but I'm happy to answer as many as I can at this point. And we always want to feel as though we're communicating really, really well with you. So I'll touch on that in a second. But in terms of my background, I've been in North Carolina since 2005 with my family, was a math teacher, and then eventually an assistant principal at a high school in Durham for an 11-year stretch. And then most recently was at an elementary school in Durham for 4 years before moving back to the high school level. Really, really missed the high school level. All the extracurriculars, the passion that high school students have. And I think that the arts are a part of that. And so I can't wait till we're back in the building, can see our students thriving in the classroom, in the theater. And so I really look forward to being a part of that and just being in the audience as I see you perform. But again, in terms of this year, I encourage you to reach out to me either through email or give me a call. If you do, I'm probably going to share my cell phone number with you so we can talk specifically about any individual questions you have about your student schedule. And then encourage you to share ways that we can improve our communication over the next 3 weeks as we launch the school year. So I know you're not here to hear me, so I'd love to kick it off to Mr. Noe, who we're so thrilled that he is now a part of our Orange High family.
Well, thank you, Mr. Hunt. I appreciate it. And just to start off, I'm really, really excited about the future. I know right now it's a little worrisome, a little bit troubling, trying to figure out where we are and moving forward. But I'm really looking forward to seeing how things grow, how things develop, and moving forward with everything. Before I get started, I did want to just thank a few people. Mr. Hunt, I really appreciate you bringing me on board to be a part of this family and to carry on the legacy of the Orange High School Band. I've learned so much about the program through the hiring process and the research that I've done, and I'm really excited to be a part of this organization. It has such a strong history of superior performance and just a long tradition of a great, wonderful competitive marching band program, jazz band program, wind ensemble, and so many other things. So I'm really excited to be a part of this family. Also, Mr. Markle, I wanted to thank you for everything that you've done through the transition. It's been a really difficult transition this spring with things shut down, boosters kind of going through a transition, but it being separated through this. And I really appreciate all the hard work and extra effort that you've put in maintaining the website, keeping things running and making sure we had that line of communication. And I would be absolutely remiss if I did not thank Mr. Mike O'Haggerty for helping me out. We moved, Rebecca, Miss Noe and I moved down beginning of July, and I was calling around to a couple places and stumbled across a former band parent, and she put me in contact with Mike O'Haggerty, and he and his son Colin put together 6 people to come help me unload the truck when I moved in, and that was a tremendous help. And I am so thankful to Mr. O'Haggerty, Nick, Laura, Aaron, Hannah, Macklin, and Colin. Thank you so much for everything that you guys did. They knocked it out in about 45 minutes. Came with masks. We were socially separated, distancing, and all that other stuff. And I just really appreciate you guys helping out there. So I am going to share my screen with you guys. I do have a little presentation to kind of help me get through this and just kind of talk about a couple of different things. So we're all trying to figure out what this fall and what this year is going to look like. And as Mr. Hunt mentioned, there are a lot of questions that we just don't have the answer to. But my commitment to you is that I'm going to plan for every instance that we have, every situation that we are kind of looking down the pipe at. It is my goal to set up a plan so that we are best prepared to have the best experience and the best outcome in any situation. So just kind of tonight, before we get started, just the things that I want to go through there's just three of them. I want to tell you a little bit about myself, and then I want to talk about the marching season and the jazz ensemble. I know there's a couple of questions about the spring concert ensembles, and maybe we can get to some of that in the question and answer. But I know the immediate concerns are what is happening in the fall with all the virtual learning and all that other stuff. So a lot, Mr. Hunt shared my bio with you guys, my work history and all that other stuff, and that gives you a good glimpse of who the professional Mr. Noe is. But I know students are always trying to figure out who is this guy that's coming in to talk to us. So I just wanted to real briefly share a little bit about my background, and maybe hopefully you guys will get a glimpse of why I went into the band profession and became what I call a professional band geek, and I wear that badge with utter pride. So my background is I grew up, most of my childhood was in the Wilmington area. I grew up in a small town in just outside of Wilmington called Burgal. We moved there from Wilmington when I was in second grade, and I was there through my ninth grade year. So I started band in Burgal, North Carolina at Burgal Middle School, went to Pender High School. And after my freshman year, we actually moved back to Wilmington, and I went to Laney High School in Wilmington, North Carolina. Uh, there was a lot of situations going on there. My dad had started a business. It did not go too well, and that's why we moved to Wilmington. And caused a lot of turnaround and stuff like that. Middle of my junior year, we actually moved up to Fairfax, Virginia, and I went to Fairfax High School, and that's where I graduated from. The reason I'm telling you this is because I had so much turmoil throughout my high school career that it was the band that really gave me a place to be at every situation that I was in. When I walked into the new school, when I walked into Pender High School as a freshman, I had an immediate family that I was a part of. When we moved to Laney, same thing. I was quickly adopted into the marching band program in the summer. I quickly found a place within that family. And when I moved up to Fairfax, I moved in the middle of my junior year of high school. And band kids, regardless of where you are just the best kids that you'll ever meet. They are so welcoming, inviting, and want you to be a part of that organization. And I know that it was those experiences in my high school experience that led me down this path. And that's the atmosphere that I really want to continue to develop with the program, is that we have this inviting atmosphere that we can really build our family, grow our family, and invite people to come and be a part of us. So gives you a little bit of my background. If you'd like to see my professional stuff, there's a that bio that went out. I've got experience as a band director, but the who I am really started in high school with that. Now, moving on to the important subject of what is going to happen this fall. And so let's talk about the plans for the 2020 season. Uh, the first thing that we need to really identify is that we have no clue what the 2020 season is really truly going to look like. We're starting to get a better picture as we go through, but there's still, even with the announcement last night, we don't know what is going to happen after that first 9 weeks. What type of schedule will be on, what type of whether it will be everybody in the school, whether it'll be some hybrid. We just don't know what is happening. The one thing that I do know is that the Orange High School marching band, the Panther Regiment, is a competitive marching band. So my goal is to give us a competitive marching experience, whether that is in person, whether it is virtual, or whether it is some type of hybrid between those experiences. Uh, the things that we do know is that the first 9 weeks is going to be all virtual for everybody. So whether your family was considering doing the virtual academy, or whether you were planning to go the route where we were doing the hybrid thing with the 50-50, we are all going to be in this together and moving forward as a full marching band together this fall. We also know that North Carolina high school athletics have been postponed until at least September 1st. So we really don't know what the football season is going to look like this year, whether we'll have games that we can march at. With that being a major aspect of the marching program, we really don't know what the competitive season is going to look like with a lot of the schools. So one of the things that I've been looking at are virtual competitions. If you read my bio, you know that for the past 4 years, I've been serving as an adjudicator with US Bands. US Bands is a national organization. They are a circuit of marching band competitions. They have marching bands throughout different states. It's mostly in the upper northeast part of the country. They also have a big following in Texas. But I've been adjudicating for them. I know their program, and they've got an excellent adjudication process. They have a great rubric to adjudicate programs. This fall, they're in the same boat as every high school. They don't know what their season is going to look like. So what they have developed is a virtual competitive season for bands that are either virtual, or whether they're in some hybrid type of situation. And with that, we have they're doing a series of competitions virtually. And there's 4 competitions that I would like for our organization to focus on. The first one is going to be September 26th, the Flow Marching Kickoff. October 17th is the Zildjian and Vic Firth Challenge. And October 31st is the state and regional championships. Depending on how many people are from the state, there'll be a state championship. Sometimes they combine states if there's not a lot of bands in that situation. And then they have a national championship in at the end of the season on November 7th. Now, all of these competitions, there's a couple of ways that they are doing this. They are there's different levels that they are doing. You can do an all virtual competition for the bands that have a hybrid schedule, like we may have after that first 9 weeks. They have a plan for that. The schools that are going to be in session, they have a plan for that, but doing stuff virtually and everything. Now, when we get back, because of that, we are going to start off our season in a virtual capacity. We are going to have a virtual marching band, and we'll talk about what that'll look like in a little bit. As I mentioned, they have different levels. They have the hybrid and standstill. If we get back in October and we're able to put together some type of live performance and submit that to them, we can do that. And if we get back in and there's time to put something on the field with everybody, we are going to hit that full force and be moving forward with that. Now, travel to competitions is, I would love to say that we're going to go to a competition this year. However, every high school is in the same situation with us and trying to figure out what the season is. A lot of the schools that host these competitions are, it is a big investment by their band boosters to put on these shows. So a lot of them are starting to figure out if they can afford to have enough bands come to this to make it happen. And we don't know where the competitions, whether they're going to happen or not. Some schools have already started canceling their competitions. There are still some out there. And if we're able to travel and if there is availability of a competition for us to have a live competitive performance, I am all on board, and we are going to hit the road running when we get back together and put together a program that we feel confident about, that we can take out and be competitive with and move forward with that. So the structure of the season is going to start out virtual. We are going to, the teaching part is going to revolve around the music. We will have choreography for the color guard and design that for our flag sections, and also body movement, personal body movement with the band. We're also going to, if we're competing virtually, there's actually a lot of flexibility with the show design and how we present stuff, so we can do some cool things with the camera where we can get you guys outside of in your homes and your communities where you're safe, and we can do some marching outside and do some effects and visual effects with that and present that in the capacity. So, what happens will really depend on what happens with the closures and moving forward. And as much as we're able to do, we're going to move forward with doing as much as we can. Now, if things get back to normal and say we aren't able to compete, but because there's not a competitions, we are going to be looking at our community to really find some opportunities for us to perform in a safe manner. Obviously, if we're allowed to do this with restrictions, with social distancing and all those measures, we're going to look at opportunities within our community, within Hillsborough, within Durham, within Chapel Hill. If the Christmas parades are happening this year, we are going to be a part of that and letting everybody know how incredible and amazing the Panther Regiment is. Now, we have the question of what is our show. I am so pleased that we have a lot of the staff coming back on board this year. We have Mr. Milton is back on board as our assistant director, visual coordinator, and got to meet him and talk with him virtually. Scott Thomas is going to be heading up our drum line again this year, and Miss Berryman, Chrissy Berryman, is going to be doing our front ensemble this year. We had a great meeting last week where we talked about some different show ideas, and the concept that we came up with was a concept that tells our story this year. 2020 has been a year that none of us will forget, and it is what we can do through music is to share that story. So our show is going to have three movements in it. The first movement is going to talk about what you guys experienced this spring, the pandemic, the closures, how that affected you. We are going to talk about this summer, we saw a lot of injustice come to light and come to the forefront of our community. Our second movement is going to address that, and we're going to use music to demonstrate that and show that aspect of our with our program. The third one is unity, because regardless of what is happening now, we know that the future, one day, we are going to be able to come back together, hopefully sooner than later. And that is our message. Our song is going to be sung together, and we are going to have unity. And it's going to bring those things together. The pandemic and the closures that separated us, the racial injustice and the racial tensions that have been separating us. It is our song that is going to bring everything together, and we're going to show the path moving forward where we can have unity with ourselves. We're going to share that through music, but also because we're doing a virtual experience, we're also going to include spoken word into our show. And the first movement, we're going to tell our story through our words, the words of James Baldwin, and also the words of unity, which we'll talk about. So the first movement, the pandemic and the closure, this is the voice of our community. I want us to really dig into this. We're going to have a music that we're working on, but also I want us to start talking about what was happening in our community, come up with statements about where we are with our community, how this closure affected our community, whether it's at Orange High School or whether it's in Hillsborough, Mebane, Chapel Hill, Durham, the surrounding areas of Orange County. I want us, our community, how were we affected by the pandemic and the closures, and have that speak through our music. The song choice is going to be You Keep Me Hanging On by the Supremes. We've got a great arrangement that we're going to put together. And on top of that, we'll have those statements that we'll put into the video as well. The second movement is the racial injustice. This summer, I watched a great documentary on the author James Baldwin. And there are so many, if you're not familiar with James Baldwin, that part of what we'll do in the fall is we'll talk about him and who he was. He was a civil rights leader. He was an author. He was a contemporary of Martin Luther King Jr. And a lot of the figures, Malcolm X, a lot of those figures going on through there. And he wrote about his experiences. He also spoke about those experiences. And there's lots of documentation and things that he was saying back in the 60s and 70s, 50s, 60s, and 70s that really speak to what we're seeing in our culture today. And we're going to use his words on top of the music as well. The piece of music that we're going to use is Changes by Tupac Shakur. Now, if you are familiar with that piece, you know that Tupac sampled a great arrangement of Bruce Hornsby, The Way It Is, and that will be the melodic structure that we use. We're going to use Tupac's feel, his percussive feel, the beat behind that to kind of drive the message, but that will be our second movement. Now, the third movement is something that I need for all of you students to help me with. This is your song. This is the voice of our band. Now, we were talking about this in our staff meeting, and we were throwing around ideas, and we couldn't come up with one specific idea that really spoke to this idea of unity. And as I was talking to them, I was texting them today and I said, hey, we've got all these different choices. How about we let the band decide? So I want you guys to figure out what that third movement is. Some of the things that we have put together are Come Together by the Beatles. There's a great arrangement of that. Your Song by Elton John. Believer by Imagine Dragons. We Found Love, Rihanna. And Hey Jude, there's a great arrangement of Hey Jude and Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band by the Beatles. These were the 5 tunes that we kind of put together to kind of convey that idea of unity and coming together and everybody coming back together. But students, this is where I need your help. In the coming days, I am going to send out a link to a Google form, and it will have a place where you can listen to the actual arrangements that we would be purchasing for this. And you guys are going to decide what our final movement of the show is. So make sure that you guys keep an eye out for that. You can jot down the link there if you'd like to go ahead and get started on that. But we will, I'll go ahead and send that out to everybody as well. And you'll see on that Google form that you can go ahead and listen to those and tell me which one that you guys want to do. Whichever one comes out, we'll stylize our show for that closure there. Now, student leadership. I sent out an email last week and followed up with a couple emails yesterday and today. If you're not on that email list, I want to encourage you guys to go to the OHSPantherBand.com website. Make sure you click the link so that we can have your contact information. I have gotten a lot of messages from people saying that I no longer have students in band. Please take my name off of this email list. I want to honor that. So starting within the next couple of weeks, I'm only going to be sending out to those students that I know are registered for the course or the ones that have filled out that form. So families, please visit the site and fill out that form for us. Student leadership, our team of student leaders, I rely heavily on. Throughout my whole experience as an educator, our student leadership team is exactly that. They are leaders within the organization. Some of the things that I expect of the leadership team is that you guys understand that the success of our marching band is really an integral part of the student leadership team. Uh, we meet regularly to talk about strategies to make our band better. And I expect the student leadership to come to the table with ideas of what they think will make our band better. The band we've had band directors throughout the course, but each year, this band is your band. This band is the students that make up this ensemble right now. So if you have ideas to bring to the table, that's I really rely heavily on you and your input to help come up with ideas so that we can take our band to the next level. So that each week we see progress, we're moving forward. If you are interested in being part of the student leadership team, whether that is being a drum major, whether it's being a captain, whether it's helping with the uniforms, or whether it is, being part of the crew, a librarian, there is an interest form on the OHSPantherBand.com website that you guys can fill out that interest form. We are going to I will have your contact information. It draws it in and it tells me what you guys are wanting to audition for, to apply for. And it also has a place for you guys to download a teacher recommendation. I really encourage you to download that now. Start contacting the teachers. It can be a teacher, it can be the leader of an organization that you've been a part of. If you've volunteered somewhere and want to get their recommendation, you can use that. But go ahead and get that out because it's going to be due at the end of next week. And try to be respectful of the people that we're asking for. I know it's a short amount of time. We're kind of pushing things, but really try to get that to them as soon as possible. Visit the website. It's on there. You'll see the link on the home page. And also keep an eye on that. There's also a tab, parents. I have set up a live feed for updates on the website. So if you go to after this, Mr. Markle, if you'll remind me, I'll pull up the website and show them the different tabs. There are going to be some edits and stuff like that, but under the updates tab, there is a place where I will be sending out updates regularly of things coming up to keep you guys informed so that it's not just Facebook and Twitter, but also check out our website. You've been receiving my emails. I typically send those out 3 to 4 times a month, just the mass email to everybody with it. It is a newsletter. It is a lengthy email, but it's got a lot of the things that we're covering. Student leadership team, we are having leadership training. I work with the student leadership so that you know that before you actually audition, what all is involved, the things that we're looking for as a staff. And we go through a process because I want you guys to be successful in that leadership role. I don't want it to just be another tick on the college resume. I want this to be an experience that you guys grow from and that you guys can take on to the next moment in life. And, your leadership experience here is going to carry over into the future, whether it's in college or whether it's moving forward into the world and everything. We are going to have a student leadership training starting next week. Monday through Thursday, we're going to be meeting from 9 a.m. to noon virtually. You will get, for everybody that fills out that intent form, you will get an email from me with the links to the Google Meet so that we can meet together, go through the training process, and talk about some of the expectations. I want to hear from you. I want to hear some of your goals for the band. This is going to be a time for all of us to grow and to really scope out the path forward moving through this season. Be sure to fill out that interest form. All right, now marching band would not be marching band without the marching instruments and the uniforms. So we have a pickup date. This is going to be totally different from what we've done in the past, but we're dealing with something that we've never dealt with before. You guys are going to be taking. I'm not sure if you guys typically take your uniforms home. I know that's not something I ever did in a traditional setting. They were kept at the school and maintained and all that other stuff. But if we're going to be competing virtually, we're going to need to look the part as well as sound the part. So instruments, if you need a marching instrument or the uniform pickup, we have scheduled a date. And Mr. Hunt, correct me if we're still good to go with this, but Monday, August 3rd, from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Keep an eye out in your email for a Google form where you can sign up for a time that you can come. Obviously, we need to do this in a manner where we can socially distance and have it in a safe manner that we can do this, and we're going to make every effort to do that. But we want to make sure that you have the instruments that you need to be successful, and that you have your instruments so you can look the part on the field this year. And that will be emailed out to you. Band camp. We are having band camp. It's going to look a lot different this year. Right now, we are starting on August 5th, and we will go through that following Tuesday. It will be 1 week. The times that you need to kind of block out is 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Now, we are not going to be meeting in a Google Meet the entire time. Over the next couple weeks, I will give you a more detailed itinerary. There's going to be times where I work with sections. There's going to be times that I work with groups, and it will kind of fluctuate throughout the time. We'll set up different rooms in our Google Meet where our student leadership team can work with the members to talk about some of the things that we need to talk about. Freshmen, it is going to be a totally different experience for you guys because you're going to be learning the how to march in a virtual setting. I've never done that before. I don't know of any marching band that has really done that before, but we're all in this together and we're going to move forward, and it's going to be great. But we'll have different times throughout the day, and you'll get a detailed itinerary of what those days are going to look like and what you really need to block out. But just for now, just kind of block out that big amount of time, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. every day. I can tell you we will probably meet together and we will close the day together, all of us. And in between there, we'll have the different times that we meet as smaller groups and as sections there. All right, and the last thing is jazz ensemble. If you haven't noticed from the picture on the back of my wall, I am a huge fan of jazz. I was a jazz musician. I play. One of the things I love to do is to gig in jazz combos. We are going to have the jazz ensemble. We are going to be starting up that class. I know it's a year-long class. It's usually a 0 period. We are going to be meeting in August. Some of the things that we are going to focus on this fall in that first 9 weeks, we're going to talk about jazz articulations and styles. We're going to be talking about jazz improvisation. And we are going to try to figure out some way to have some type of virtual performances. Not sure how that's going to look right now, but it is on the agenda and things that we're planning for. Yep. All right. And that pretty much covers the presentation tonight. Guys, listen, I just want to say I am so excited to be a part of this organization. I'm looking forward to leading you guys this year. I am not sure what to expect this year. I don't know all the answers. None of us do at this point. You just heard Mr. Hunt. With some of the decisions that are coming down, there's a lot more questions that are happening. We are all in this together. We are a band family. It's kind of weird for us to be meeting in a virtual setting, but it doesn't break that bond any less. And just know that I am fully committed to you to make this the best season possible. Seniors, I am supporting you in every single way to make your senior year the most memorable possible. Mr. Markle, I think we had a few questions that I may not have covered in the presentation.
Yep. First off, marching band, how many students are enrolled?
We are still trying to finalize the numbers. The numbers that I got was around just under 85 that we had on the roster. We will be sending out confirmation. I think I have emails for just about everybody. The best way that we can really get the contact information, and let me go ahead and pull up the OHS Panther Band website. It's got a new look to it. I did update a few things, and the face of it won't change a whole lot. Let me see if I can't present this.
And while you're pulling that up, I just posted the link for the ballots on there as well.
Oh, good. So on here, you've got the website. You'll see different upcoming events. You've got this here. And we'll get this put on the Band Booster tab there in a minute, a little bit later tonight. We'll have the announcements. You can always see our Twitter feed here. The updates, this is updated regularly. It automatically updates every 5 minutes. So if there's an announcement that comes out within 5 minutes, it'll be on the website. So check that regularly. Just periodically check in to make sure things are going on. I have not taken away any of the previously shared announcements that were coming out there. And boosters, this is your page. So make sure you check that regularly for different things. I'm sure that the boosters will have things that they're adding throughout the season, information about fundraising and all that other stuff. And Mr. Markle will go ahead and get that announcement switched over to this tab here for the boosters.
Okay. Communication, especially to parents, but one of the requests we've used in the past is the Remind app, a texting app. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that or not, but are we going to set that up for parents that don't have Facebook or Twitter or anything like that to stay in communication?
Yeah. The answer to that is yes. I do not know how to set it up. I need to learn that and figure that out. There have been a couple other things on the agenda that I've been trying to knock out first. Typically, there are 3 ways that I try to communicate. The first is through email, and you'll get emails periodically throughout the year. Like I said, it's usually every 1 or 2 weeks that I send out one of the big emails just listing upcoming events, things to kind of keep in the back of the mind, things that relate to us, fundraisers, all that stuff. Make sure that we have the most up-to-date email address for you, because that's where a lot of the information comes out. The second way is on the webpage. If there's an announcement that comes out, it will be posted there on that live feed on the band website, and I will figure out the remind.com. I know that my wife was an executive director with the youth orchestra, and I know they used a similar platform there, so I'll probably get her to tell me that.
All right. The majority of the rest of the questions were all pertain to remote learnings / virtual academy. I know in the school board meeting last night, they talked about a band specific virtual academy online learning call that I don't remember the date off that. If you have that date, if you can share that with us, that would be helpful. Or Mr. Hahn, if you have that as well.
That the date on that is actually next week, next Tuesday. The boosters, the band directors for the county, and we all got together, all 5 of us. We had a meeting with Miss Braxton, who is kind of oversees the fine arts for the district, and these are all issues we're trying to work through. What that virtual academy will look like for band students. From my perspective, I am going to do everything possible to give those students the same experience that they would have in a live situation. The thing that I can tell you right now is that starting off the year, we are all going to be in a virtual academy, for the first 9 weeks. So that experience is going to be consistent for everybody. How that looks after that first 9 weeks, got some time. We've got a few months before we figure that out. But just know that my commitment to you is that your student will have the same experience as the students enrolled in the band, as best as I can.
Let's see here. Is there, if a student is to stay in virtual academy, if they choose as a family to stay in virtual academy for the entire year, do you see that as being a problem for concert band ensembles in the spring?
I don't know. I don't know how that's going to look. I know that when I sat in on the session, they mentioned a couple things in that session about extracurriculars and band and choir specifically. They mentioned in that session. They said that in that session, and I don't, and Mr. Hunt, you can maybe answer some of this, but I think that a lot of this we're trying to figure out because this is new for everybody. I mean, if you had asked us in December of 2019, you need to put together a virtual experience for all of your students. Everybody would have said there's no way that we can do that. This spring going into the fall, we have found a way that we're going to make it happen. It's going to be a great experience for everybody. And for those students, I think we're trying to figure out the path moving forward. In that session, they mentioned that, the students enrolled at Orange High School are going to be part of Orange High School in that virtual academy. They'll have the opportunities to the athletics. They'll have the opportunity to the organizations that they're a part of. And I'm assuming that they'll have the opportunity to be a part of band. I welcome any student into the band program. I want them to be a part of it. How that looks, we'll figure out that as we go. But Mr. Hunt, do you have anything that?
Yeah, I think first of all, that was hard to follow, Mr. Noah. Thank you. I think that really, honestly, we have very few answers about the second semester at this point. I think right now, what we do know is that everybody is kind of in the same place for the first 9 weeks of school. So everybody is going to get a remote experience for the first 9 weeks, and that Mr. Noe has been really, really impressed me. He reached out to me recently and said, I'm not, we don't really know what virtual academy means. We don't know what learning 2.0 means. But what I do want you to know is that I'm willing to spend as much time during the school day, outside of the school day, to differentiate the experience for all of our students. I share the same philosophy in terms of at Orange High, we want every single student to feel like they attend the best high school in North Carolina. That's my goal. And that for some students, they have a teacher that really means the world to them. For some, they play on a team. For others, it's the robotics club. And I know for many, it's the band experience and the family that Mr. Noe mentioned. And so he's done a great job, in my opinion, of thinking about ways where we can connect with students, whether they're at home or in the school. And that's where we have to really differentiate experiences in the second quarter. And when we do go to the in-school / virtual academy model. The first 9 weeks have simplified for us to some degree based on last night's decision to say, now we know what those 9 weeks look like, and our teachers are already at work trying to create their curriculum and experiences for the students for the first 9 weeks. Second semester, I'll be honest, I have no idea. I think that at that point, I think we're going to make a lot of mistakes in the fall, and we're going to find a lot of things that are awesome that we didn't know about in the fall. And I think we will probably be learning a ton daily, and I think that will inform our spring experience.
Okay. I think really the last question that hasn't been touched on for the fall is social distancing. When we are back to hopefully 1 week on, 1 week off, the thought of 85 students, so that would be approximately 35 to 40 students in band class. Knowing how big the band room is and everything else, do you have a vision yet for how 50% of the kids looks in band class?
The answer to that is I've only had one glimpse at my new band room, and it wasn't the best glimpse. So I don't know what specifically that is going to look like. I know that there are ways. There's lots of places for students to be in that wing of the building, and to be supervised and to be part of the ensemble. I know that this is one of the things that is being addressed next week with the session that the band directors are going to be addressing. It is something we're working on together. What that is going to look like as far as masks, social distancing. There's certain guidelines that are being, the band directors have the North Carolina Bandmasters Association. They've done a lot of great work. There's research all over the U.S. A lot of the major colleges and universities have been putting together some really great research about what is the safest practices for band performance. And the short answer is I don't know right now. I will by the end of that first 9. I will a lot sooner than that. But we are going to take every precaution to have a great performance experience in that band room, but also have a safe experience in that band room.
And Mr. Markle, I don't know if this will help, and Mr. Noe, just to give everybody kind of an idea about the numbers related to that question. We had about 700 responses from families with the district's virtual academy survey. About 35% opted for virtual academy. And so I know we can't extrapolate that necessarily exactly to the whole school, but if in that particular class, but if that were to play out, you kind of be looking at about 25, 30 students in person each week. And so we would have to work to find a space to accommodate that.
Yeah, and that's plenty of space to keep them socially distanced. Trombone players require a little bit more space because of the slides and stuff like that. But those numbers I know could easily be accommodated in the band room.
Absolutely. I think the last question deals back with the spring, specifically wind ensemble. Have you put any thought yet into how students will be selected for wind ensemble, and what that selection process looks like?
I did get a list from Mr. Carter of people, because I think from a guidance point of view, that list is typically submitted in the spring. I have not gotten a final list to see who all was able to fit that class into their schedule. That stuff will come out later. But I do have a working list of students that were, I guess, recommended or auditioned successfully for the wind ensemble. As we kind of move through that fall semester and I get to know the kids, if there's some kids that if we need to revisit some of the audition process, I'm definitely open to that.
Okay. I think that pretty much covers all of our questions. It's right at 8 o'clock as well. So I know we were shooting to keep this right for an hour. So that's pretty much all I've got. I thank Mr. Hunt for your time. Mr. Noe, I thank you for putting the presentation on. I'm sure the kids are excited about having a show to look forward to, and whatever that. It's
be a great show.
And so it's exciting times. And again, families, if you will get those ballots completed, the link is up on Facebook and on the band website. Mr. Noe mentioned he's going to move it to the Band Booster page, but that is up and ready to go. So we will be in touch with all of the elected board members over the weekend or early Monday and get a meeting on the schedule.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Markle. I appreciate it. Mr. Hunt, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks for the invite.
You guys have a good evening.
You too.